Every single day, millions of us connect to the internet, and we do it through this weak link that we don't even see. It's a fundamental flaw, really. And today, we're going to dive into the story of the tool that was built to fix it, Cloudflare WARP.
All right, so let's just jump right in. Seriously, think about the last time you were at a coffee shop or an airport or a hotel lobby and you hopped on that free Wi-Fi. How secure do you really think that connection was? The truth is, it probably wasn't secure at all. And that little vulnerability right there, well, that's where our story really begins.
So this core problem we're talking about, it actually has a name. It's called the Internet's last mile. And yeah, I know, it sounds like the end of a race or something, but it's really the part of your connection that's closest to you. And, you guessed it, the most vulnerable.
So what is the last mile exactly? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just that invisible link, that radio signal between your phone or your laptop and the Wi-Fi router. It's the very last, super important hop your data makes before it gets onto the main internet. And this is the crazy part. Most of the time, it's left completely wide open. We're talking totally unencrypted. The best way to really wrap your head around this is to think about a postcard, an old-school physical postcard. When you're on Wi-Fi that isn't encrypted, all your data, it is that postcard. Anyone else on that same network can just pick it up and read the whole thing. Your passwords, your browsing history, your private messages, it is all just out there for anyone to see.
Now, when Cloudflare decided to tackle this, they didn't just jump straight to the end goal. Nope, their journey actually began with a different but totally related problem: how to make the internet's address book private.
So, before 2018, almost every single time you typed a website address into your browser, that request, it's called a DNS query, was sent out in plain text. Think of it like shouting across a room, "Hey, where do I find google.com?" Anyone could hear you. Then, on April 1st, 2018, Cloudflare launched 1.1.1.1. It was this free service that made those lookups private and super fast. It was a huge step, but it only solved one part of the puzzle.
And look, 1.1.11 was a massive win for privacy. Don't get me wrong. It basically put a shield around which websites you were asking for so your internet provider couldn't snoop on that. But, and this is the important part, it didn't protect the actual stuff you were doing on those sites. The postcard was still unsealed.
So this brings us to the obvious next step, right? A VPN, a virtual private network. For years, that was the tool you were supposed to use to encrypt your traffic. But the team at Cloudflare knew that traditional VPNs, well, they came with a whole bunch of their own serious problems.
I mean, it's the obvious question, isn't it? If the goal is to encrypt everything, why not just use a standard VPN? That was the solution that was already out there. Well, the problem was that most people who actually used traditional VPNs, they just hated it. The whole experience was terrible.
And the difference between what existed and what they wanted was just huge. On one side, you had these old-school VPNs that were slow, they were clunky, they were a nightmare to set up, they absolutely killed your phone's battery, and on top of all that, a lot of them had really sketchy privacy policies. But on the other side was the goal, something blazing fast, something so simple you could turn it on with one tap, something that wouldn't drain your battery, and something built on real trust and privacy. That gap between the reality and the dream, it was massive. So they decided, okay, we're going to build our own thing. Not just another VPN to throw on the pile, but a complete reimagining of what a personal security tool could even be. And to do that, they needed a real, honest-to-goodness engineering breakthrough. Okay, so here's how they did it. The team started by just rejecting all the old, clunky tech like IPsec and OpenVPN. They knew that wasn't the future. And then, they stumbled upon something amazing, a brand new protocol called WireGuard. It was modern, it was lean, and it was so fast. So they took that brilliant idea, they rebuilt it from the ground up in this super secure programming language called Rust, and then they built a whole new service on top of it. And that was the birth of WARP.
4,000. Just let that number sink in. That's how many lines of code are in the WireGuard protocol. Now, compare that to the hundreds of thousands of lines in the older protocols. Why does this matter? Well, it's simple. Fewer lines of code means fewer places for bugs to hide, a much smaller target for attackers, and it's way easier for security experts to check it for problems. It was a revolutionary leap forward.
The engineering team, they didn't just see this as a piece of code. To them, and this is a direct quote, they saw it as a work of art. And it was that passion, right? That passion for clean, elegant, efficient engineering that really drove this whole project forward. So, okay, After all this work, after identifying the problem, throwing out the old solutions, and discovering this amazing new technology, what did they actually build? What is WARP?
Well, here it is. WARP is a service that they built right into the original 11111 app. And with one tap, it secures and encrypts all of your phone's internet traffic. It's a solution designed from the ground up to finally protect that vulnerable last mile we talked about at the very beginning, and to do it easily for everyone.
They launched it with 2 different versions. The main service, WARP, the one that solves that core security problem, it's completely free. But then, for people who want even better performance, there's a paid version called WARP Plus. And what that does is it uses Cloudflare's massive global network to find the fastest possible path for your data, making your connection even speedier.
So really, when you boil it all down, the goal here was never just to sell another VPN. The mission was way, way bigger than that. It was about fixing a fundamental flaw in how the internet works and making real, powerful security something that anybody could use with just a single tap on their phone.
And that kind of leaves us with a bigger question to think about, right? I mean, our lives are basically lived online now. Our banking, our friendships, our private conversations. So, whose job is it to make sure that journey is safe? Is it on us, the users? Is it on the companies we use every day? Or is it the responsibility of the people who build the internet itself? It's definitely something to chew on the next time you tap that connect button.